Welcome, and thank you for joining us for International Holocaust Remembrance Day commemoration. I'm Sarah Snyder, the Hero Center Director, the educational branch of Voices of Hope, and I'd like to share with you the significance of today's event. January 27th marks the 77th anniversary liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. In 2005, the United Nations recognized the date as a time to promote Holocaust education globally, with an annual commemoration of the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust. Since 2010, the UN has designated themes for the commemoration, and this year's is Memory, Dignity, and Justice. A key component of the UN's resolution is the rejection of any form of Holocaust denial by encouraging its members to actively preserve sites, and by condemning all forms of religious intolerance, incitement, harassment, or violence against persons or communities based on ethnic origin or religious belief. Unfortunately, we are experiencing a time of increased anti-Semitism throughout the world. Please turn your attention to a brief clip on anti-Semitism.
Eli Rosen knows all about where hate can lead. His grandparents survived the Holocaust. They always warned him to keep his head down because there might be more to come. Last August, they were proved right. Rosen was targeted along with his synagogue in the Austrian city of Graz. Its walls, made from the bricks of the synagogue destroyed in 1938, defaced.
After this attack, those warnings of my grandparents had kind of flashback, and this made me very, very sorry and brought tears into my heart and my face.
A few days later, just outside the synagogue, Rosen was chased by a man wielding a baseball bat, but managed to get back into his car just in time.
Certainly I was scared. Being physically attacked is a dimension that's different than being verbal attacked, which I'm used to because anti-Semitism has risen within the last year.
In 2020, anti-Semitic incidents in Austria reached their highest level since the country began keeping records 19 years ago. And in Germany, incidents rose as much as 30%, according to a German watchdog. Much of the rise in both countries is being blamed on harsh COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. Protesters demonstrating against the restrictions held signs depicting forced vaccination by Jews, and 2 people in Berlin were shouted at by a man who they believed blamed Jews for the pandemic.
I think that anti-Semitic conspiracy myths have been there for centuries, and in fact, whenever there is a pandemic, they have come to the fore again.
Across Europe, anti-Semitic attacks have been rising for years. From a deadly standoff in 2015 at a kosher supermarket in Paris, to Vienna, where 4 people were killed in a rampage outside the Stadttempel synagogue last year. And then there is the desecration of Jewish graves, like these in eastern France. In Brussels, Rabbi Albert Guigui now wears a baseball cap when he goes out to hide his very identity. Of course I wear a yarmulke at home, he says, but outside I prefer to cover my head less conspicuously. It's not healthy, he explains, to live in an atmosphere of fear and where you feel hunted. I think that as well as being vigilant, we must tackle the evil at the root of the problem, and that is about being different. The Holocaust killed an estimated 6 million Jews in Europe, but as living memory gives way to fading footage, so denial grows and hate speech returns. As well as the tension around COVID lockdowns, the violence between Israel and Hamas in the Middle East in May also drove hate towards Jews across Europe. Like here in Berlin, or in Brussels, where the chants spoke of ancient battles between Jews and Muslims.
We do see a cyclical increase in expressions of anti-Semitism and also anti-Semitic violence linked to events in the Middle East. But if we look more broadly at the phenomenon of anti-Semitism in Europe, we see that it's much older and also much wider. And it's really a European issue.
The hate is also spreading online, according to Human Rights Watch. Horrific cartoons like this one, depicting Jews with a big hook nose. Or this one in France of a conspiracy theory blaming Jews for the pandemic and shared, he says mistakenly, by a candidate in recent regional elections. The European Commission has a deal with tech companies to remove offensive content within 24 hours, but only once it's been alerted. This is the memorial in the very heart of Vienna to the 65,000 Austrian Jews who were deported during World War II. Most did not survive. It's a reminder of where words and conspiracy theories can lead, but it's also a reminder of Europe's own very violent, homegrown history of anti-Semitism, an anti-Semitism that has never quite disappeared. Prayers continue to be heard all over Europe. From the center of Paris to the old Stadttempel synagogue in Vienna. Eli Rosen says that his grandparents' approach of keeping a low profile after the Holocaust was understandable, but ultimately misguided. European Jews keeping their heads down, he says, has not prevented anti-Semitism from rearing its head once again.
Contrary to my grandparents, I will tell my son, or I would tell young Jewish people to be proud of being Jewish.
Melissa Bell, CNN, Vienna.
And police hunting for suspects in that brutal attack on a man in Times Square.
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone chasing me with their fist raised back, looking to punch me in the face. And before I could even react, to make a move or anything like that, I was surrounded by a whole group of individuals who proceeded to kick me, punch me, hit me with flagpoles, crutches, and for good measure, pepper spray or mace me for a good amount of time. I've never shied away from the fact that I was Jewish or thought it would get me into any sort of altercation or physically, verbally, I was never really attacked or anything prior to this incident because of my religion, my kippah, my Jewish faith or anything like that.
But we haven't previously seen this kind of surge. So the size, the volume of this increase has been pretty dramatic.
There's no doubt that the underlying whole premise of yesterday was anti-Semitism. The hostage taker didn't go to a McDonald's, didn't go to some random place. And that is part of the story of anti-Semitism, to single Jews out. We've had a litany of anti-Semitic attacks in recent years. It's part of a larger pattern. And I don't know one Jewish person who's in the dark about yesterday's anti-Semitic attack. I would also say that one of the things that we've discovered is that yesterday was also about an outpouring of interfaith solidarity, the likes of which we have seen over the last few years. So as anti-Semitism has risen, so has the solidarity. The Muslim community, the Christian community, the Buddhist community, the Sikh community, all reached out, all held prayers, all showed up. And that is also part of what this moment is about. And it's also part of the story of yesterday.
This clip makes evident that organizations like Voices of Hope and the Hero Center must continue to fight against anti-Semitism and more broadly hatred, and highlights the continued importance of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day's mission to educate about where unchecked hatred can ultimately lead. We're also reminded about the power of allyship and the critical need for mutual respect and support across all religions and races. Voices of Hope's mission to promote a culture of courage, to stand up against hatred through Holocaust and genocide education and remembrance, is met through educational initiatives within the schools and communities across diverse partnerships, which are key to our success in creating a unified Connecticut.
Dear friends, 15 years ago on January 27th, I sat in the United Nations for the first General Assembly candle lighting celebration to remind the world of the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. The motif was simple and stark and aimed to prevent future genocide. The saying, "never again," rang through the room. Easier said than done. Anti-Semitism, which had been on the decline since the end of World War II, has made perilous returns of the emergency of the age-old hatred such as America has never seen. Tonight, on behalf of Voices of Hope and JFACT, two organizations who work with dedication to assure that we never forget the Holocaust, and they do that wholeheartedly. They're committed to teaching children so it won't ever happen again. Rabbi Emil Fackenheim once said, "The education of a child is a victory against anti-Semitism." When Andy Sarkany came to New Haven 20 years ago, he became connected with Holocaust children survivors of Connecticut. And ever since then, he has been sharing his family's story in Nazi Hungary, his father's excruciating time in Mauthausen concentration camp, the Soviet communism in Budapest, and his travel alone to America with no money, no English, and only a little education. But what he did possess was gratitude, a desire to work hard, to raise a Jewish family that he is rightly proud of, a strong commitment to serve the Jewish community, and to do his best, his very best, to assure that there would never again be anti-Semitism. Andy follows Emil Fackenheim's dictum. We have the 614th commandment, and it says, it is imperative to carry on Jewish existence. Don't handle Hitler a posthumous victory. I am so honored today to present Andy Sarkany, a colleague of mine, a treasured friend, and a man who is deeply committed to telling his personal story of the Holocaust to more than 80 groups of young people, college students, medical students, and adults for Kristallnacht and Yom HaShoah. Andy, for your dedication and love of the Jewish people, we gratefully present you with this year's Chesed Award, Kol HaKavod.
Was Elie Wiesel wrote in Night, and I quote, "To forget would be not only dangerous, but offensive. To forget the dead would be akin to killing them a second time." In light of this quotation, I know that it is my obligation to speak up and tell my story, to educate any and all to remember the atrocities that occurred during the fascist rule of Germany. When I address my audience, I remind them to never forget. And in my presentation, also remind them to make sure it never happens again. I want to remind you what happened on August 11 of 2017 in Charlottesville, Virginia. The mob of whites, nationalists marching, wearing the swastika. It represents the Nazi government of Germany. I saw the swastika when I was 7 years old. It does not belong to the United States. In a speech, my former president said that there are good people on both sides. I almost had a heart attack. There is no good Nazi. A Nazi represents two things: hate and kill. I urge you to never use the word hate. It should be replaced with the words love and hope. Love and hope will succeed and promote peace and creativity. We cannot be a bystander. We must be an upstander. We must speak up and tell the truth to build the future. In closing, I present a quote. "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is good men to do nothing." It is attributed to philosopher Edmund Burke. So I will keep telling my story until I am able. to make sure no one never forget.
The newsreel. It's how most Americans saw World War II unfold. American audiences watched the Nazis occupy major Eastern European cities in their advance toward Moscow and Stalingrad. Typical images of Jews during this time period depicted them as helpless victims of genocide. Yet from Soviet newsreels, we can see a rare glimpse of another side of the Jewish experience during World War II. As partisans, Jewish resistance fighters behind enemy lines who were determined on derailing the German war effort. This rare footage documents Polish and Russian partisans, which included thousands of Jews who escaped the virtual death sentence of Nazi occupation. To fight the Nazis, partisans endured extreme conditions, harsh winters, and little food, and being without permanent shelter for years on end. Despite the conditions, partisans built underground bunkers. They made and salvaged weapons and clothing. Underground newspapers describing their victories were printed and distributed. Local farmers gave them goods, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes not so. As the war progressed, the Soviet Army, realizing the strategic value of the partisans, airdropped weapons and supplies to help them. Partisans destroyed communication lines, blew up railroads, destroyed bridges, ambushed patrols, and attacked strategic strongholds. It's difficult to quantify the effect of partisan attacks, but as a group, they inflicted a substantial toll on the German army. The German troops suffered tremendous casualties, and thousands of Nazi trains and bridges were destroyed. This newsreel footage is a testament to the heroic contributions of the Jewish partisans who fought in World War II.
Listen. Shh. Listen to the stillness. This is the stillness of the voices that were taken away from us. People who lived here and there and 2 streets away, Motri-Gebirtig. Voices that were taken from us. We are the voices that are left. We must be their voice, carrying their song. And so we will do the hymn of the survivors, of those who fought and those who survived. Never say that you've walked the final way, though leaden skies obscure the light of day. The hour we longed for will certainly appear, and our steps will proclaim we are still here. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst den letzten Weg. Gott Himmeln blei, verstellen neue Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte schon. Es wird abbeugt an unser Trott, wir seinen da. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte schon. Es wird abbeugt an unser Trott, wir seinen da. Gott Himmeln bleine, verstellen neue Tag. kommen wird noch unser ausgedenkte Show. Svenka beugt an unser Trott, wir seinen do. Kommen wird noch unser ausgedenkte Show. Svenka beugt an unser Trott, wir seinen do.
Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg.
This is the hymn that we sang in the forest. And all the partisans, they sang it.
Die immer finstere Nacht. The days are very sad, but it will come. The ungewillte Show. It will come the right day that we will say with our foot, wir seien da, we are here. We are proud that we are here.
Weißen Palmenland bis weißen Land von Schnee. Wir kommen an mit unserer Pein, mit unserer Weh.
Und wo gefallen sie, so spritzt von unser Blut. Sprotzen wird dort unser Gewurre, unser Mut.
It is like a national anthem. It gives you a good feeling, you know, that you have a future and things like that, you know. It came shivers in my body, you know, when we were singing that song.
Wie am Parol so ging das Lied von Tor zu Tor.
And we were singing this in the partisans. And after the war, I met my beautiful wife in Poland. We are married over 65 years. And every morning when we go to our exercise, I see my beautiful wife and I sing the song to her. So by singing the song every morning to my wife, it makes my day. Because we are both partisans and coming with happiness that we are alive.
We are here. This is a song in English.
Each year, Voices of Hope recognizes educators who have shown their passion for Holocaust education through the Simon Conover Recognition for Excellence in Holocaust Teaching. Simon, a Holocaust survivor himself, endured unimaginable hardships during the Shoah. In the years following, Simon made sure to live every day of his life to the fullest, minute to minute, not hour to hour. This award was presented in the past at Voices of Hope's annual Evening of Hope. In recognition of the educational purpose of International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we decided that today's program is an appropriate venue to recognize, applaud, and thank this year's honorees. Today, we present 4 teachers with this special award. Our first honoree, Kimberly Bellera, was the first director of Voices of Hope's Holocaust Education Resource and Outreach Center. She helped develop the structure with resources to ensure Connecticut's educators have the necessary tools needed to provide students with a meaningful education about the Holocaust and other genocides. Our 2 other honorees, Ian Lowell, who's from Monroe Public Schools and is a social studies instructional leader, and Jessica Pilardi from the Social Studies Department at West Hartford's Hull High School, are teachers whose exemplary work with students deserves recognition and thanks. Our final honoree, Lauren Thompson, Head of Community Services at Meriden Public Library, brings education to the wider public through her sponsorship of community conversations with authors of Holocaust literature. We are excited to introduce you to all of this year's honorees.
Good evening, everyone, and greetings from Heidelberg. My name is Kimberly Bellera, and I was the first Hero Center director at Voices of Hope. First of all, I would like to thank the staff and board and the International Holocaust Remembrance Day Committee for this incredible honor. Having chosen educators for the Simon Conover Recognition for Excellence in Holocaust Teaching in the past, it is truly humbling to have been chosen myself, along with 3 other wonderful educators who I had the pleasure of working with. I am so proud of all that I was able to achieve as center director with the help and support of so many in the community. From expanding our reach to teachers and students across Connecticut and eventually the United States, to witnessing the powerful interactions between our survivors and students, I cannot say enough about what this position has done for my professional and personal development. I am incredibly proud of reaching more than 16,000 students and educators. I am proud of the efforts to implement the Connecticut Holocaust and Genocide Education Mandate with our advisory committee, and I'm very proud of the relationships I built with our colleagues and partners, and most importantly, our survivors and their families. To everyone at Voices of Hope, thank you for allowing me to do this work with you and for recognizing my passion for and commitment to history and education. To our educators and students, thank you for allowing me to share this history with you in so many meaningful ways. And to our survivors and descendants, please know that I carry your lessons and your friendship with me wherever I go. IHRD is a special opportunity to recommit ourselves to building a better future for everyone. With this recognition, I humbly recommit myself to that purpose. Congratulations to my fellow educators being recognized today, and wishing all of you from the bottom of my heart a healthy year ahead. Until we meet again, thank you and good night.
Hi, my name is Ian Lowell, and I am the award winner for the Simon Conover Award this year, 2022. Just want to say thank you so much for recognizing me for the award, and it's a true honor, and I am truly humbled for your recognition. In my mind, though, the true award winners are the survivors who have come to share their stories with us in Monroe Public Schools, and the teachers in my departments, both at the middle school and at the high school, who work every day in the trenches with students to help instruct them on the Holocaust and broaden their understanding. I want to give a special thank you to Mrs. Ruth Weiner and to Mr. Andy Sarkini, who have come out to Jockey Hollow Middle School, whether in person or via Zoom, to talk to our 7th graders and to share their personal stories. Just as others have shared their stories, their personal stories up at Massac High School, whether it was Mr. Zoltan Gutman or it was Paul Goldstein, who's shared the story of both of his parents who were survivors in the Holocaust with our folks at Massac High School. These survivors' stories are so personal and so difficult to tell, and I'm so grateful not only to them for sharing their stories, but also to the Hero Center and the Connecticut Voices of Hope for helping to orchestrate and getting those speakers to us. It truly makes a difference. I've been asked today to also share some thoughts. One of the questions that was asked was, how does learning about the Holocaust impact students? And the first thing I would always say is that students are just shocked by the inhumanity and the cruelty of the Holocaust. Kids ask, once they're shocked, they ask, well, how could this have happened? And I think that's where the true learning happens, where we talk about, how could events like this happen, and how could we prevent events like this from ever happening again? Lastly, I think it creates an empathy for the plight and suffering of others, which empathy for others is such an important skill and trait for all students to learn. The stories of our survivors humanize what might otherwise be seen as unbelievable. So why do I teach the Holocaust? Well, I teach it to build that empathy. I want our students to grow not only as learners, but to grow as people and individuals who can see the world from other people's point of view and perspective, and to combat hate. I think an important job of all education is to make sure that we raise citizens who will be productive and to combat hate. We can do our part in education to make sure that future genocides don't happen. And by doing so, hopefully save the lives of those in the future. That may seem like a wistful dream, but education is a powerful tool to combat hate. Finally, I hope And I think that kids do learn the lesson that we have a shared humanity across eras, across time, and across all of our differences. In our society today, we oftentimes focus on differences of religion or ethnicity, and so many other things, political spectrum. And it's important for us all to understand that there's so much more that we share in common than we might readily admit.
Hi, my name is Jessica Pagliardi, and I want to just talk a little bit about why I teach the Holocaust. So, learning about the Holocaust affects my students in different ways, but in one way, they become aware that anti-Semitism is many times called the longest or oldest hatred. And we look at certainly anti-Semitism prior to the Holocaust, during, but also in the modern day. And they are affected when they come to the realization, if they haven't already, that anti-Semitism, unfortunately, did not end with the Holocaust. And it is still alive today, and people are still suffering and being victimized because of that hatred. So I think with a lot of the awareness that a lot of students have about the fight for anti-racism and more equality in society, they see that anti-Semitism is still something that we have to look at as a hatred that hurts people in the modern day in very real ways. I think that too often when the Holocaust is taught, people learn about Jewish people being, only victimized and not having any agency in trying to escape or trying to resist what was happening all over Europe. And my students learn the valuable lesson that many Jewish people and non-Jewish people did resist. And there were many people that rescued. There were Jewish people that rescued others. We do a whole case study on the Bielski brothers and Jewish partisans. So I think that is one of the most important lessons that my students gain.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Thompson, and I'm saying hi from Hawaii. I am halfway around the world for my first week off in almost 3 years. And I just wanted to pop in to say how honored I am to serve the community as a librarian. It's been really great to work for a community with strong roots and values, and it's a city that often has a small town feeling. So serving Meriden has been a special experience. And when they asked me about my comfort with doing Holocaust programming during my job interview, it just so happens I grew up in a town in New Jersey that was about 30% Jewish. We had Holocaust curriculum in middle school, and I've been both familiar and interested in the topic throughout my life. I've spent time in Israel, I've spent time in Amsterdam, been to many museums, and I'm generally just interested in the topic and what happened and learning more. Thank you for being so supportive. Both Voices of Hope and the Hero Center have been incredible partners in programming for my community, and I look forward to all the work we can do in the future. Thank you. Have a good night.
The way Holocaust education was delivered to me was just awful.
We wanted the kids to remember, but we wanted them to feel hopeful.
Initiated by the San Diego Jewish Academy in 2006, the project aims to create 1.5 million painted ceramic butterflies in memory of the 1.5 million youth who perished in the Holocaust.
Holocaust survivors, working with children,
We had to wear Jewish stars.
When we saw the cattle cars, we realized we are being shipped to a concentration camp.
And somebody's calling out my name. Then he said, "Stay alive so you can tell the world what they're doing to us."
And I was 11 years old when I was taken to the concentration camp. So many of my friends, they're not with us. They were Jewish. This was the only reason that they were murdered.
Inspired by an artist.
Friedel Brandes helped us to survive.
Friedel used art for good, to give the children hope, to cope with this shock and the fear.
What began in a school.
Would you want to wear something like this?
Right? It's not just a Jewish project.
Inspired people across America.
And I mean, this is like one of the best parts of our lives is when a box comes in.
And around the world.
That we're able to do this down the road from Auschwitz, there's an important message there.
Butterflies are flying in.
They're reframing a tragedy to make the world a better place.
I've learned that if I don't do anything, then nothing will change.
The Butterfly Project gives a voice back to the anonymous child.
This is a lesson for life.
In addition to our Simon Conover recognition, we are introducing our annual Hero Center Award for School-Wide Excellence in Teaching the Holocaust and Other Genocides, which recognizes schools that go above and beyond to teach the lessons of courage, empathy, and being an upstander. It is with these schools that Voices of Hope and the Hero Center are encouraged by the deep sense of commitment to the Holocaust and other genocides that will foster caring students who will continue to take these lessons into their communities. This year, we are honoring Classical Magnet and Fairfield Middle Schools for their excellence in school-wide teaching. Each of these schools have demonstrated their resolve to educate their students about genocide via a year-long professional development program, engaging in workshops, and bringing survivors into their classrooms. We are excited to share a look into both of these schools. Thank you for all that you do for your students and our community.
We're here at Classical Magnet in the hallway, looking at a student work from 3 years ago, where every year students at Classical Magnet in the 10th grade do a research project on crimes against humanity. And it's a month-long project involving everyone. Every student that goes through our school does this because it's so important. It's so important that not only that they learn the academic skills of research, but they learn the important lessons of, that what they do matters in life. And learning from the past really affects the present. Hi, my name is Troy Stair. I'm a world history teacher here at Classical Magnet. I've been teaching at Classical for over 20 years. This is Kate Bernosky, a Latin teacher who's been here for more than 20 years as well, and John Hill, an English teacher who's been here for more than 20 years. We've been doing this project for at least 16 years, and every year it gets better and better as, we dive into the curriculum and we add things. But the key element, I think, to this project isn't just us, it's what the students do. That they take on a personal responsibility for researching and then figuring out how they're going to present that information, how they're going to teach it, and in a way that's real to a real audience. Because not only does the 9th grade do it every year and they do the research and the presentation, but the 9th grade comes through as an audience. And then also people from the community, parents, come in and view the project as well. And it's just a really meaningful, purposeful project.
As an English teacher, one of the things I appreciate is the reality of human drama writ large, through the stories of horror, through the stories of compassion and heroism that the Holocaust situation has revealed to all of us. And students read these materials like night, and they read research papers, and they are so deeply moved, we know that they will never forget the lessons they have learned from others.
it's a bigger project than just one class. It's interdisciplinary. We also read Tootie's Promise, which is a story of, actually a Hartford resident. They've met survivors every year. We've been very fortunate working with the Hero Center and Voices of Hope, who have made sure that we've had survivors come in. Excellent speakers, researchers, presenters. We've just been very fortunate, and the students come away just with a deep understanding and a real personal understanding as well. That, we try to bring out the idea of Niemöllner's poem as far as, never forgetting, but also not being a bystander.
Many of the students come back after graduation and say this was the most meaningful project they have done, that it has forced them to reevaluate relationships and also to take a stand. As Mr. Stair said, you are not just a bystander, you must go out and be active, and you cannot just complain, you must do. But every student who comes back remembers this project and remembers the emotional impact it had on them, not just from an educational standpoint, but as a global citizen. And we think that is very important as well.
On behalf of the school community, all our students and teachers, we thank you for your support every year. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Before we get started, I'd like to talk a little bit about how this partnership between Fairfield Public Schools and the Hero Center evolved. Principal Anthony Formato reached out to us and asked us if we could arrange to have a Holocaust survivor come in to speak to his students because of an anti-Semitic incident that happened earlier in the year. What Jen and I wondered was how we could enhance this experience by aligning it to our existing curriculum, supporting all the work that all of you middle school social studies and English teachers are doing already, and expanding this opportunity across all grade levels and all schools. So we reached out to Sarah Snyder and soon discovered that the Hero Center is true to its name. Sarah introduced us to Daphne Geisman and her book, Invisible Years. In the process that Daphne engaged in to recreate her family story so closely connects with the skills and themes that we address and the work we do with our students in developing their social studies and English literacy skills. Themes such as, human rights, identity, justice, equity, perseverance, skills such as researching, generating questions, close reading, conducting interviews, writing, analyzing text and images. So today, we'll begin this journey with a personal reflection. To bookend it, the culminating piece or the culminating experience for our 8th grade students will be to interview Holocaust survivors and descendants and exhibit their work to the public on the Hero website.
So excited. We've been talking about for years, pre-pandemic, bringing together again the ELA and social studies teachers to do this important work around ways that we can create interdependent, authentic, and meaningful experiences for our kiddos through our humanities lens. So we're really hopeful that today is going to kick off some really incredible, powerful thinking for some of the beautiful work that you're going to do in the future as we continue to engage in the pedagogy of our history, our heritage, our identity. Goldie Muhammad, who is one of the core components of the work that we're doing in the review of ELA, talks about identity as who you say you are, who others say you are, and who you desire to be. And she talks about how children grapple with these ideas, trying to make sense of all three of these areas, and how our curriculum and our pedagogy should reflect that practice. We truly believe that the work we're going to do today with Renate, Sarah, and Daphne is a model example of how we can engage that work further.
The war has left a bloody trail and many deep wounds not so easily healed.
Many people have been left with scars that take a long time to pass away.
We must never forget the horrors which our brethren were subject to in the Bergen-Belsen and other Nazi concentration camps.
Then, too, we must try hard to understand that for righteous people, hate and prejudice are neither good occupations nor fit companions. Rabbi Alfred Bettelheim once said, Prejudice saves us a painful trouble, the trouble of thinking.
In our beloved land, families were not scattered, communities not erased, nor our nation destroyed by the ravages of the World War.
Yet dare we be at ease. We are part of a world whose unity has been almost completely shattered.
No one can feel free from danger and destruction until the many torn threads of the civilization are bound together again.
We cannot feel safer until every nation, regardless of weapons or power, will meet together in good faith, the people worthy of mutual association.
There can be a happy world, and there will be once again when men create a strong bond towards one another, a bond unbreakable by a studied prejudice or a passing circumstance.
Then and only then shall we have a world built on the foundation of the fatherhood of God and whose structure is the brotherhood of man.
My name is Leah Katz, and I'm reciting this pledge in memory of my parents. My father, Arthur Goldschmidt, from Hersfeld, Germany, and my mother, Ruth Goldschmidt, who passed in December 2020 from Holzheim, Germany.
I'm Jeff Israel, and I am dedicating this reading to both of my parents, my dad, Kurt Israel, my mom, Bee Israel, who passed 1 year ago, and they are both from Germany.
Hello, I'm Helen Swede, and I'm offering this pledge in memory of my mother, Lola Swede, from Lodz and Chmielnik, Poland, who passed away December 2020, and also on behalf of my father, David Swede, also from Lodz.
My name is Renata Lantos. I'm saying this pledge in memory of my parents, David and Lola Swede. Lola Swede passed away in December of 2020, and my father, David Swede, passed away in 2012. They were both from Lodz, Poland.
I'm Barbara Sperber. I am speaking in memory of both my parents, Harry Kines from Litatov, Poland, and my mother, Edith Kines from Lodz, Poland, and she passed away a year ago.
My name is Susan Letterman, and this is in memory of my dear parents, Abraham Letterman from Kielce, Poland, and my mother, Miriam Letterman, who died in November of 2020 from Vilna, Poland.
My name is Eliane Stanler. I'm pledging tonight in memory of my mother, Gisela Zaks-Adamski, and my father, Sevek Adamski. My mother was from Germany and my father from Poland. Thank you.
We are the first generation born after the darkness. Through our parents' memories, words, and silence, we are linked to that annihilated Jewish existence, whose echoes permeate our consciousness.
We dedicate this pledge to you, our parents who suffered and survived, to our grandparents who perished in the flames, to our vanished brothers and sisters, more than 1 million Jewish children so brutally murdered, to all 6 million whose unyielding spiritual and physical resistance, even in the camps and ghettos, exemplifies our people's commitment to life. We pledge to remember.
We pledge to remember. We shall teach our children to preserve forever that uprooted Jewish spirit which could not be destroyed.
We shall tell the world of the depths to which humanity can sink and the heights which were attained even in hell itself.
We shall fight antisemitism and all forms of racial hatred by our dedication to freedom throughout the world.
We affirm our commitment to the state of Israel and to furtherance of Jewish life in our homeland.
We pledge ourselves to the oneness of the Jewish people. We are your children. We are here. Wir sind du.
Hello, my name is Peter Fishman. I am a founding member and the current president of Voices of Hope. Thank you for joining us for this year's International Holocaust Remembrance Day program. While today is about remembering the past, it is also about working together to create a more hopeful future. We conclude today's program with a prayer that was written by Britain's Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mervis, Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, and Senior Imam Kari Ashim to mark Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. These men of different faiths coming together with one voice to call out the necessity of standing together so that light will banish darkness, love will prevail over hate, and goodness will triumph over evil, give cause for that hopeful future that a young Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote about. There can be a happy world, and there will be once again, when men create strong bonds towards one another, a bond unbreakable by a studied prejudice or a passing circumstance. Loving God, we come to you with heavy hearts, remembering the 6 million Jewish souls murdered during the Holocaust. In the horrors of that history, when so many groups were targets because of their identity, and in genocides which followed, we recognize destructive prejudice that drive people apart. Forgive us when we give space to fear, negativity, and hatred of others simply because they are different from us. In the light of God, we see everyone as equally precious manifestations of the divine and can know the courage to face the darkness. Through our prayers and actions, help us to stand together with those who are suffering so that the light may banish all darkness, love will prevail over hate, and good will triumph over evil. Amen.
Von unser Thron, wir seinen da!